So there's this narrative going around on Twitter or X that your first job shouldn't be a remote job. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of agree. But I also think that if you do get a remote job as your first job, there are a couple of things you need to keep in mind to get the most out of it. That are things that you probably wouldn't necessarily have to consider if you were working in person. So let's talk about this. With all that being said, hi, I'm GPS. I do cloud things at Microsoft here on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and welcome to a new video. All right, so my first job I actually didn't have my first remote job was the one before this when I was working at A Cloud Guru. Everything else before that was in person. But as a junior engineer, I was working in person. And honestly, I definitely would have missed out on a bunch. Potentially, my career could have looked different if I wasn't working in person. Because I was part of a really small team and I could walk across the office. It was like this open floor layout like most offices are now. And I would be with the data engineers or the other software engineers or like the sales team or whatever. And because I had this exposure and because I can like make friends pretty easy, I was able to get on to different projects and work on different automations just by like having conversations with people and like the opportunity to build things. I was kind of able to go and find these because I would hear my colleagues like complain about something like, oh, I wish we could automate this, or oh, I wish I didn't have to do this. And then I would pop up and be like, hey, I could do this. Let's spend some time talking about this, walk me through it. And then I would piece together a solution. And I think that would have been really difficult had it been on like Teams or Zoom or whatever it is, right? Also, in that job, I stayed late. Not all the time, but I would just, hang out or whatever. And I would oftentimes find myself involved in conversations with like leadership or like my manager or like senior engineers just because I was there. I just happened to be there and I got involved in conversations. And that definitely gave me a lot of exposure and just a bunch of opportunities, right? And again, something like that would have been really difficult for me to do in like a remote or like a virtual experience. I also think I developed like a lot of people skills, a lot of like handling how to ask better questions, and overall just being, I think, a better teammate. I developed a lot of that in that role. And there was also a lot of like team building things that happened even like unplanned. Like just sit down, have lunch with whoever was there at the counter. The encounters at the like coffee machine. We had a ping pong table, so that's how I learned how to play ping pong and how I like bonded with other teammates. We had like a little video game area. We'd watch movies on Fridays. It was a great gig, and those things are just really hard to do, obviously, virtually. But it is 2024, and things are way different. And virtual, remote, it brings a lot of opportunities that most likely didn't exist before. A lot of different team dynamics and experiences, and opened up roles that may have not existed in like the countries that they exist now because of remote being an option, which I think is great. I would just say that you really have to go out of your way to make yourself visible in that type of I guess environment. Like if my first role was remote, I would be pinging someone every single week to have some kind of virtual chat with, virtual like lunch or coffee or whatever it is, because those first few years of your career are so important in terms of figuring out who you are as a professional, learning those people skills, learning how to work on a team, and kind of just being like a fly on the wall, absorbing as much as you can. Because later on, as you grow, as you niche up, niche down, whatever, you're going to want to be seen more as a leader as you go and you go and you go. But there's a lot of like foundational skills that are not even technical that you need to build. And you kind of have to gonna go out of your way to build that when you're working remote. I'm not gonna say that it's not possible. I didn't do it, but I just think you definitely have to find how you could do that remote. Unless you don't care about that. But I think you're gonna, if you want to progress and sort of gain more responsibility and grow into other roles and level up, I think these are things that you're just gonna have to build. So yeah, I would be on like virtual chats, virtual coffees every single week, meeting someone, speaking up in meetings, making sure my voice is heard, asking for help, asking questions, providing my input, everything, just making myself seen as much as possible if I was working remote. But I'm not necessarily going to say that remote will ruin your career. It's just like a different beast that you have to learn how to manage. But keep that in mind. Um, Even now, like I work remote fully now, but I'm always looking for opportunities to meet up with colleagues. Like I was just in South Africa and I met a bunch of people from different teams. It was so great. I literally just texted a colleague of mine, "Hey, let's get lunch next week and we're going to grab lunch." I go into the office whenever there's some kind of event. Like I think we're human beings, and like that connection for me is like so important. And I feel like if I didn't have like an in-person connection to anyone or anything work related, I feel like it would feel like so like just very isolated, and you spend a lot of time working at your job, so you want to make that as like, I don't know, just as enjoyable as possible. Yeah, we're humans. We want to connect with each other. We're social beings. And I know a lot of you are going to be like, "I'm an introvert. I don't want to talk to anyone." Trust me. Life is just so much more enjoyable when you have people around you. And you want that at work, right? We don't need to do it every single day and like you just have to be in like a miserable office. I don't think so. But somewhere in between, I think is definitely something that's good. All right. That's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.